going to ask everybody if they can just bow their heads and say the Lord's Prayer just to kind of bring the vibration in and to ground. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Whenever I do that, it's funny because you close your eyes and you can kind of feel your vibration rising. And it's interesting because sometimes I don't. I'll have to stop myself because I'm going through my day and things get really crazy. And then one of my friends or John or someone will say, "You need to practice what you preach, Kim. Chill out, go take a bath or relax." And today was one of those days all my stuff's going to a publisher, and he all of a sudden, and I had a feeling this was going to happen, he said, "You need bullet points all picked out. You need this, that." I'm like, okay, I already picked this stuff out, and I'm like, panicking. And so my daughter said, "Mommy, you need to chill out." I'm like, okay, I need to chill out. Because I'm throwing that energy out there, and it's not really going anywhere. It's not doing anything. It's just kind of, it's hitting everybody around me, and that's not always a very good thing. But it's interesting because I went and I saw many just wonderful speakers over the past few years. I've had opportunities to see Dr. Deepak Chopra, to see Dr. Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, just different people, and listen to them speak. And I always sense that there's this pressure that's on them, like this pressure. And I think, that's very true. When you start writing, or you start teaching, you start lecturing, you start to get this pressure. And I think that every one of them has had it, because I can pick it up in some of the words that they speak, and that they're not allowed to get off balance, or they're not allowed to not be perfect. Or it's interesting. I have people that will come in and they start getting on their path and they start praying and they really start moving forward, and then all of a sudden they just lose their temper, or something happens. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not following my path." And I'm like, no, you're only human. We all do that. We all have our ups and downs, and just part of, it's like the hangman in a tarot. It's, you're on this earth plane, but you're also connected to God, and you have moments. You have moments. And one of the things I just wanted to share is when you go through life and, you're really, really living, and you have God in your life and you have truth in your life, it doesn't mean that you're not going to stumble once in a while. I mean, once in a while we stumble. It's up to you, though, to pick yourself up. And what I love is, if you ever heard that poem, Footprints, is I always like to imagine that Jesus is carrying me, or God is carrying me as I go through a tough time. We're never alone. But sometimes it's easy to feel alone, especially when you're alone, if you don't have family. You've got four walls surrounding you, and your head starts talking to you, and you think, my mind or my thoughts are my best friend right now. And what I would say is, your thoughts and your mind are your best friend, is you, and that's a blessing to know that. Because a lot of people don't take that time to get to know who they are. So sometimes we're thrown into a seclusion, or we're thrown into a space where we feel alone, or we feel like, why isn't that person in my life anymore? It's on purpose that you were thrown into that, so you can get to know yourself. I have 5 kids. Since 18 years old, I started, and my daughter is now 21. And I always tease I have every one of my girlfriends, real close friends, none of them have any kids, and they're not married, and I always have to laugh. I'm like, they're like, what are you doing? "Oh, I'm just doing my work, and then I decide to take a nap." And I just laugh, and I'm like, what is it like to have silence? And they laugh at me, they go, what's it like to have excitement and things going on? And I think that that's so awesome that we all have that ability. We all have that in each other, that You know, maybe I have the craziness. You can come over my house. You want to hear a house where the doors are slamming and kids are running around, come to my house. So if you ever get sad and you feel like you feel lonely, come to my house, and you give it about an hour and a half and you'll go, okay, I want my quiet. But it's the same thing. I think that if I was in that quiet all the time, I'd be like, I want my kids, I want to hear that. So we need to learn to appreciate what we have in our life and what we've been given. There's a very specific reason that you're living your life exactly the way it is right now. Even though we're all on this path, and it's to knowing God and knowing God within us, and some people call it the path to enlightenment, and our purpose is already within us. Even though we're all on that, all of us are in different spaces. Some of us, I mean, there's people that live in China, there are people that live out in the desert. And then some of us, we have our warm little cozy, TV or whatever it is, and that's how we live. But the thing that is very similar with each and every one of us is that we all have free will to take that moment that we're in and live it specifically. When I come here, one of the things I always do is I go through the whole week, and I don't sit and think about all the things I'm going to say when I'm here. About an hour before I get here, I let the information come in, and I say, when I walk in the room, that when I'm speaking, I know that I'm going to be connecting with whoever's in this room. So first, when I share, it's usually because something in my life is touching something in your life, and something in your life is touching something in my life. I think that the greatest teacher is also the student, and we have to learn that. I see a lot of teachers out there who are not willing to receive as much as they give. And I always say, when you walk through the door, when you're walking through that doorway, let someone else hold the door for you once in a while. You don't always have to hold the door yourself. It's hard sometimes to not do that. You know why? Because we want to be in control. And the truth is when we give our lives to God, we just give it up to God, we can't go down the wrong path. There's no way. One of the people that I admire the most, who I would say, I know he's mentored me, he was passed on to the other side, but I feel him as Edgar Casey. He, at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, if you get a chance to go to their website, or if you don't have that, if you get a chance ever to go to Virginia, or if you they have these study groups. They're called A Search for God study groups, and they'll send you the different books. They're a wonderful organization. Edgar Casey was all about teaching the truth, teaching about Jesus, teaching about God, and he devoted his life to that. And this is a wonderful group. I mean, just a whole set of books that you can get. And what I wanted to try to do is when I came here to try to share some of his readings that he gave. He would, and it was really neat, they called him the sleeping prophet. Has anybody ever heard of, I'm sure you've heard of Edgar Casey. His wife would put him into a relaxed state, and then he had a lady who was his assistant that would write down notes, and he would give messages. And so if you go to the ARE or you go online, there are thousands and thousands of readings and messages that he's channeled. So much so that he got so popular that people would come from all over when they were ill to get messages channeled, and they built a hospital for him. He was actually curing people. The reason for that is because he gave up. And he let God in, and he allowed himself to be divinely guided. And the other thing that if you look in his teachings, you look in his readings, he also will tell you that this is not from me that this comes from God, which means you have the ability within yourself to receive messages too, through using your intuitive mind. Edgar Casey talks about the different states of consciousness, and he talks about what he called the superconsciousness, and that's a place where we're all connected. But that's also a place where our higher self, or some people will call it your spirit guide is there, or that's where we're connected to that part of ourself where we can always keep that energy, our purpose. Our purpose is within us, but it just reminds us of what it is and where we're going. How do you connect with that? How do you connect with that part of yourself? Yes, meditation, prayer. The other way is practice using your senses. And I'm an Aquarius, so my mind's always going all the time, and I'm always using my mind to really hone in on those things. And I think just because of doing so many years of readings and giving guidance, it's just a natural thing. Sometimes I need to ground myself, anchor myself. I call it anchoring. And what you can do, and I would just tell you to try this week, it really works, is go through your week and practice your different senses. Try your clairvoyance, which is intuitive sight. If I said to you, see a red apple, you can see that in your mind, right? Practice seeing things in your mind. The more you practice seeing them, the more that part of your intuition develops. All you're doing is you're beginning to stimulate these neurotrophins that send messages from your brain into your body that help your body to be totally connected and aware to your senses. As you're sitting there, what do you taste? Can you taste a lemon? You can. But when do you walk into a room and ask yourself, what do I taste? Do you know that if you can allow your senses to be aware and you can focus on your taste when you walk into a room or you're talking to someone, you're going to pick something up collectively from them. Same thing with smell. What do I smell? What do I hear? I can hear baby crying. You can hear me taking my fingernails and running down that chalkboard. Get that feeling. Practice using your senses. Practice. The more you practice, the more open you become. Use your feeling, which we call clairsentience. Clairaudience is our hearing. Clairsentience is our feeling. And that is, what do I feel when I walk into the room? What part of my body is reacting? Last night I was talking to a lady, and she asked me about this other woman, and I said, my leg is numb. There is something, because what I do is I tap in, and then I allow my every one of my senses, I start opening them up, boom, 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 and I went into my clairsentience, and I felt my leg, and she said, well, yeah, this lady has a tumor in her leg. And that's how I could tap into it, but I'm not afraid to say it either. And that's the fun thing is, when you're out there, go, oh, you know what, I all of a sudden can taste peanut butter. You would be surprised when you're talking to someone if that person might say, well, I have an allergy to peanut butter. You could say, do I have a good or bad feeling? Or maybe that person that you're talking to just ate a peanut butter sandwich. But it is so cool how you get this information. And then before you know it, you practice it, and it just becomes natural. In the book I just wrote, I was explaining, I'm going through all these different steps, and people are like, that's so easy. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to levitate to be psychic. We are all psychic. It's within us. And Edgar Casey talked about that.
What about, before you do that, what about like the guy with the, that you read for yesterday with the pet, was from the war in Iraq? You picked up on
Yeah,
something.
I was reading, I did a benefit yesterday at Petco for Save a Pet for homeless animals. And a guy came in and he sat down, and I looked at him, and all of a sudden I started getting this sense, like somebody was around him, and I started hearing a voice, and he was saying, tell him thank you for carrying me, and I'm okay. And I'm like, in my mind saying, who are you? And the message I got was, I'm his friend, and I died and carried me. So I looked at him and I said, there's a man around you, and this is like a tough guy, you know, and he just started crying, and he said, thank you. I go, but all I did was, I trusted what came in. And so don't be afraid. When you're getting a message or you're hearing something, don't be afraid to go up to somebody and share it. You're not going to get that message if they're not going to be open to receiving. You'll get a message if you receive something, you'll say, oh, I can't do that. It'll be right away a feeling like, yeah or no, I can't do it. You know, I'm just supposed to know that for myself. But I felt that compassion, the energy within me, and I went, this is what I'm supposed to share. He came in to ask about, they had 3 cats and a dog, and the couple wanted to know why they weren't getting along. And instead, I gave him some messages, but Instead, I was able to receive a little bit more, and that's the purpose of why he came in. Edgar Casey, like I said, he has many readings. In reading 262-27, he said, "As the Father knoweth me, so may I know the Father. Through the Christ Spirit, the door to the kingdom of the Father. Show thou me the way." And I think that that's really interesting when he talks about the door, because one of the things that I really believe, and I think many of us, when we look at doorways, we look at them as an opening to something else. The minute we look at a doorway and we see that it's shut, we shut down. And so does the ability to make a choice with our own free will to receive. We shut down the receiving. And I think that it's really important to know that with your free will and knowing that God is within you, so is that spirit for that door to always stay open for you. You ever see that picture of Jesus knocking on a door? That, my grandma said, if I pass away, she wants